Hello there, and welcome to my collage art studio. In this getting started video, I'll show you how to cut your animal shapes and prepare your leftover scraps so you're ready to jump right into creating animal collages during our Animal Friday sessions. Let's first take a look at the collage papers we'll be using today. These are from the Penguin Animal Collage Art Kit. If you need help with printer settings, you'll find a separate Printing Your Printables video in the Getting Started section. If your printer creates white borders around the page, you can keep those as is. There's no need to trim the white edges at this time. We have 2 pages in the core project: the animal shapes printed on collage paper and a black and white template for laying out the shapes and assembling the animals. All the animal collage art kits are set up the same with these 2 sheets from the core project PDF. Now we're going to go ahead and cut out our animal shapes from the collage paper. What we'll need here is a paper trimmer or large pair of scissors, and I also recommend a small pair of detail scissors with fine tips. The first thing that I like to do is to cut this sheet into 4 sections. I'm going to go ahead and use my paper trimmer. If you don't have a paper trimmer, you can use your large pair of scissors. So I'm going to go ahead and cut right across the middle, and then 2 more cuts. Now we're going to go ahead and cut out the animal shapes. There's 2 things that we want to keep in mind as we cut out the shapes. We want to cut out on the outside of the black line, and then we also want to keep that background intact as much as we can when we're cutting out the shapes. And let me show you what I mean. So right here, I was able to cut out all the shapes and keep this all in one piece. So let's go ahead and get started. I have my fine tip scissors. I'm going to make a cut and then go along on the outside of the black line, all the way around the shape. Now, anytime that you see shapes within shapes, all you're going to do is cut out the outside shape. So leave those alone as is. We're going to be fitting in other shapes of collage paper on top of that. So the same thing for this one here. We're going to just go ahead and cut on the outside of the outer shape. So again, on the outside of the black line. The other thing that I want to mention for the animal shapes is sometimes you'll see there's an extra set of eyes and nose. Sometimes you'll see an extra tail if the animal has a tail. And that's just so we can have extra just in case we mess up on some of the smaller shapes, or sometimes I end up losing one. So I decided to go ahead and add extra shapes for the smaller pieces. The other thing I want to mention is if you're having difficulty maneuvering with one big piece and keeping that intact, you can go ahead and cut anywhere you want. So you could make a cut here and then have some smaller pieces that you're going to piece together later. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go relax to some music or listen to a podcast, and I'll go ahead, cut out the rest of these shapes, and then I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back with everything cut out. I have my animal shapes all organized in a bin here, and then the leftover scraps I set to the side, and we'll be gluing these down to make some collage fodder. So let's take a look at what's going to happen with the animal shapes. We'll be placing them on that black and white template that I showed you earlier, and then organizing the different colors however we'd like to mix and match, and creating some really fun collaged animals. For the leftover scraps, what we'll be doing is gluing those down to a white sheet of paper, or you can glue them to any collage paper. And then over time, we'll be adding some doodles, and these can be used as collage fodder. So I'm going to go ahead and set all of this aside, and we'll now glue these down. What I have is a white sheet of paper. I have my Mod Podge and a wide brush. And then anytime that I'm using Mod Podge, I like to keep a wet and a dry cloth handy to keep my hands and my workspace clean and dry. All we're gonna do now is take some Mod Podge. I'm gonna brush it onto the white paper, making sure I get a nice coat. What I wanna do is feel that Mod Podge glide across the surface. So a nice coat there. And then we're gonna take this first piece and set it down. And because we have a nice coat of Mod Podge, we can slide it and then fit it together. And I'm trying to get this together as best I can. If you ended up cutting some smaller pieces, because it was easier that way, then you'll just assemble those, just like a puzzle. So just like that. And then I'm gonna go ahead section by section and glue them down. All right, so I have all of the scraps glued down. And the last step, I'm just maneuvering that a little bit more. The last step is to add a coat of Mod Podge to the entire surface. So we want a coat to seal the entire surface of the collage papers. This is going to bring out the brilliance of the colors. It's also going to allow us to add our doodles with acrylic markers. And if we mess up, as long as those acrylic markers are still dry, we'll be able to wash it off quickly, as long as there's a coat of dried Mod Podge on top of it. Okay, so I'm going to lift this up so it doesn't stick down to my surface. And I did not mention that I have a silicone mat that I'm working on here. So that's a nice surface to collage on because it's very easy to clean up. I'm just using my wet cloth and I'm cleaning up the surface here. I'm going to go ahead and clean out my brush. I also want to cap my Mod Podge. So I have a cap here so it doesn't dry out. I'm going to clean my brush and then I'll be right back. All right, let's take a look at what we did today to get ready for Animal Friday. We have our animal shapes all cut out in 4 different paper palettes and a fodder sheet made from the scraps. So we now have everything ready for Animal Friday. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to creating animal collages with you.